pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up, had to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in the field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick with a forceful grip. They force a misinfo that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature that mean extorted it. They forging it. If news anchors informants who informing them there's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this: we porting ships, important gifts. Of course it is, what extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks we ignoring, which informant this, informant this. It looked like we were snoring tricks. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers actors say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? In a world where no one knows what the world is. All right, I want to share this meme real fast. This is another Shabbat scripture study with your boy, Just Jack. Get offended if you want to. No one cares. Bang. Straight pride. It's natural. It's worked for thousands of years. And you can make babies. That's right. You can make babies. All right, so in case you didn't know, sodomy is not particularly fond of making babies, and that's what the meme's talking about. All right, we're going to get into some of the what appears to be like very confrontational subjects, which is simply us just digging down in the scripture. It's just crazy. It's a very clear-cut sign of the times we're in. We're just discussing the intricacies of the scripture and the Hebrew and context seem to be like all-out bloodbaths nowadays. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to add my boy in here, add to stream. What's up, Mr. Just Jack?
Go flat.
So how's your break been from the last time that we got together and discussed some of the scripture?
I've been busy working on the property, and I also have been jumping in on your different videos throughout the week and seeing that I'm a CIA operative and all that stuff, which is very interesting to me. I've never been called a CIA operative before, so I must be doing something really well if I'm starting to get mudslinging like that. So,
yeah, I forgot to bring that up, man. Yeah, luckily we're blessed with the presence of my CIA handler that is just controlling all these conversations. He's a mental jiu-jitsu artist, and none of you guys know what's really going on except for this one dude. But really, of course, the way it actually is, the way this works is we discuss some things, we dig into some of the Hebrew, some of what the scripture's saying, and then any questions that's asked in the chat, we will try to get around to them and answer them the best that we can. And so we do have a subject-specific stream, but we try to interact with the audience as we go. And with that intro, would you like to take it away, my man?
Sure thing. So I guess I'll have to do a share screen here.
Go for it.
Share screen. Okay. It was giving me options that I didn't need. So I'll just share the entire screen, I guess. Because I can't.
Should work as long as you don't have the actual StreamYards put up. It'll black hole affect us. We're just a conceptual abstraction, and now actually scientists are coming out saying that it's actually maybe just a giant thing of matter that has a high form of density at the center.
I'm going to share just a window then. I got it to work.
Cool.
So you see Genesis 1:3 up there?
No. Oh, wait, there it is. Bang.
Do you see it now?
I see it now.
All right, good. All right, so today we're going to get into Torah calendar. This is not Jewish calendar. This is not Christian calendar. This is not Enoch calendar. This is not lunar Sabbath calendar. This is not any of that. This is just Torah calendar. Take it or leave it. You have to decide for yourself with investigation, fear, and trembling, with trying to find out what the word says and trying to find out if it lines up with Yah's will. All right. That's my disclaimer. If you don't like it, sorry. All right. So we're going to start with understanding what it means to be a day, a week, a month, a year, and appointed times. So we're going to start with Genesis 1:3. I'm reading from the Scriptures version, but there are some things that I added in there for explanations, including my literal translation versions underneath the Scriptures version, and I'll lead you into that as I go. Genesis 1:3, and Elohim said, light come to be, and light came to be. And they speak Elohim, or strong leads, exist light and exist light. I think it's just simpler that way because it literally says exist light and exist light. And Elohim saw the light that it was good, and Elohim separated the light from the darkness. So that separation is important. Separated the light from the darkness. And this is Jack's version. And they see Elohim action to the light because that functions, and they separate Elohim in between the light and between the dark. And Elohim called the light day. Now, I have a problem with that. It's my own personal problem. If it doesn't bother you, that's between you and the Creator. But if Elohim gave it a term, if Elohim gave it a name, why wouldn't we use that? Why wouldn't we transliterate it to Yom instead of translating it to day? When he didn't call it day, he called it Yom. And the darkness he called Lila. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning. So evening is the Hebrew word Arev, and Arev can mean dusk, day, evening, eventide, and it comes from the root that has the idea of covering with a texture to grow dusky at sundown or sunrise. I added this part because I think it's what we would call twilight. And I don't mean vampires and werewolves. I mean that time where it mingles with darkness, because all of the root words of Arev seems to be mingling and darkness. And it's also a primitive root to braid, to intermix, to mingle. So Boker, which is translated as morning, is actually dawn or the breaking of day, generally in the morning, from the root to mean plow, because you break the ground. It's about breaking forth, and figuratively to inspect, admire, care for, consider, inquire, search, and seek out. So this is the scene part of the day. So this is the lit part, the scene part of the day. And this is the first day. Jack's version. And they call Elohim to for light Yom, and to for dark call Lila. And exists mingled darkness, and exists break forth, seen lighten, Yom 1. Jump into Genesis 1:14. And Elohim said, let the lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens. I don't like the way that they translated it from expanse. That's that replacement theology of outer space nonsense. Of the heavens, to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs, for seasons, for days, and for years. Well, signs is actually ot, which is a signal, a flag, a beacon, or a monument. The next one that's translated as seasons is actually appointed times. I like the way that the Scriptures translated that, because it properly means an appointment. Appointed time, moed. Plural is moedim. And for days, again, that's yom, the light time. And for years, shana. Well, there's something more to it than just years. Shana can be a year as a revolution of time, with the root being to fold, duplicate, transmute or change form, do again, alter, repeat, or return. So these are all the celestial repeats that we have, which some repeats are a year, some repeats are 7 years, some repeats are 50 years, some repeats, there's a lot of different celestial lineups that happen every so often, whether it be a couple decades, couple centuries, whatever. These repeats happen. It's not just years. My version 114, and they speak Elohim exists from light or light sources in shaped overlay. That's rakia, the shaped overlay, because the root of it is to be like the way that they would make hammer plated armor. So they would, flatten out a piece of armor and put it over the armor. The Shemayim, or unseen existences, for separate in between the Yom and between the Lila, and exist they do for benchmarks, for appointments, for Yoms, and for repeats. And exist they do from light or light sources in the shaped overlay, rakia. The Shemayim, what is it overlaying? The Shemayim, for light on the arets, or the physical plane, and exist affirm. So it was so, is existed affirm. And they do make Elohim action to duplicate or both from light sources, two lights, the greats to form light sources, the great to from rule the Yom, and action to from light the less, to from light rule the Lila, and action to the stars. And continue action to from Elohim in shaped overlay the Shemayim to the light on the arets, to for rule in Yom and in Lila, and for separate in between the light and in between the dark, and they see Elohim because that functions. The word translated as good is tov, which means it functions. And exist mingle darkness, and exist break forth seen lighten Yom forth. Okay, so the way that I see this when I read this in mechanical translation is that the lights actually exist in the Shemayim, and it's projected for us in the seen existence, in the physical plane, in the arets. But it appears that the lights exist it transmits through the non-physical plane, the Shemayim, the unseen existences. Now, granted, some people will say from the heavens or whatever, but, just remember, we also thought that we lived on a spinning ball inside of giant vacuum. So, Exodus 9:29. Now, the reason that we're going to Exodus 9:29 is we have to have some understanding. I need to fix this font because I like my font better. We have to have an understanding of some agricultural terms that someone who farmed all their life would know. Like, if you worked in a rye field or a wheat field or anything like that, there are certain stages of the grain where you would know its maturity level, and they have specific names for each of the maturity levels. So this also is important to understand how Torah calculates the year. So Exodus 9:29, Moshe said to him, as soon as I go out of the city, this is when the fiery hail was falling on Egypt before they got led out of Egypt. Moshe said to him, as soon as I'm gone out of the city, let me spread out my hands to Yehovah. Let the thunder cease and the hail be no more, so that you know that the earth belongs to Yehovah. But as for you and your servants, I know that you not fear, and that actually means to throw back, something that throws you back, before Yehovah Elohim. And the flax and the barley were smitten. This is the important thing right here. Barley was smitten. For the barley was, King James Version, in the ear, the Scripture version in the head, but it's actually this word Aviv. Now, Aviv is translated as green, but this is not true, because if hail was to fall on green barley, then it wouldn't break. It's only, breakable. It becomes brittle when it's at its mature stage, just like any other grain. And this is called Aviv. So the barley was Aviv, and the flax was in the bud, or in King James Version, bold. every other verse in the Torah that shows up in King James versions and other translations of the word Aviv. In Leviticus 2, verse 14, it's translated as green ears of corn or grain. Everywhere else where it appears, Exodus 13:4, 23:15, 34:18, Deuteronomy 16:1, as Kodesh HaAviv is the month Aviv in the other translations, but it literally translates as the renewed moon spotting of the Aviv. This right here, this hey right here is a prefix that means the. So it's Aviv. I'm going to zoom in a little bit there. So it's Aviv, the Aviv. Barley, which is in the state of Aviv, has three characteristics. It's brittle enough to be destroyed by hail, and it's begin to ripen or lighten in color. It is not dark. The seeds have produced enough dry material so that it can be parched. This is going to appear later on because you can't eat of the new grain. You can't roast the new grain. You can't eat of the new grain until the first fruit offering is given. It is developed enough so that it will be harvest ready when they bow down 2 to 3 weeks later for the first fruit offering. Now, what this bow down thing is when the barley is young, it stands up like regular grass. But as it fills with seeds, it gets heavy and it bows down. And within the barley, there's also tares. These are fake grain and they're grass shoots, but they look like barley. But when the barley gets full and it bows down, the other empty-headed barleys, just stand tall and proud because they're all empty-headed. Anyway, sort of like religious people. Anyway, Exodus chapter 12. And Jehovah spoke to Moshe and Aharon in the land of Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is what was translated later to Egypt. This month is the beginning of months for you. And month is renewed moon. It is the first renewed moon of the year for you. Speak to the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th day of this month, each one is to take himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for the household. So we're talking about the first month. So that's important. And the 10th day, you do the lamb choosing. If your household be too small for a lamb, let his neighbor in his house take it according to the number of beings, according to each man's need, you count for the lamb. So you don't kill extra lambs if you have a small family. You get with a family that could consume a majority of the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year old, taken from the sheep or the goats. You shall keep it until the 14th day of the month, and the assembly or congregation of Israel shall kill the lamb between the evenings. And this day shall become a remembrance to you, and you shall reserve it as a festival to Jehovah throughout your generations. Observe it as a festival, an everlasting law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread or matzot. Indeed, on the first day you cause leaven to cease from your houses, for whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that being shall be cut off from Israel. Kick them out. And you shall guard the festival of unleavened bread or matzot. For on the same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, and you shall guard this day throughout your generations, an everlasting law. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, in the evening, you shall have unleavened bread or matzo until the 21st day of the month in the evening. For 7 days, no leaven is to be found in your houses. If anyone eats leavening, that being shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether sojourner or native. Do not eat that which is leavened in all your dwellings. You are to eat unleavened bread. And you shall guard this word as a law for your sons, for you and your sons forever. This is important right here. There is one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you. And Jehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, this is the next chapter. So, set apart to me all the firstborn that opens the womb of the children of Israel among man and beast, that is mine. And Moshe said to the people, remember this day when you went out of Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery, for by the strength of the hand of Jehovah I brought you out of this place, and whatever is leavened shall not be eaten. Today you are going in the renewed moon of the Aviv. Now in the King James Version it says Abib. That's a linguistic issue. It's based on your location of whether you pronounce it Abib or Aviv. But even in the King James Version, it says the month of Aviv. And I added the here because it's Ha Aviv. If you go up there and look it up in your Hebrew concordance, you'll see it there. It says Ha Aviv, the Aviv. So this is a specific time where the barley is in its mature stage. And that's when you know that the beginning of months, you have to observe nature to see that spring is coming. And that means that the barley harvest is ripe in order to be harvested. Why? Because you can't offer the first fruit offering unless it's harvestable. And it shall be when Jehovah brings you into the land which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep the Sabbath in this month. 7 days you're to eat unleavened bread. On the seventh day is a festival to you, Jehovah. Unleavened bread, matzo, is to be eaten 7 days, and whatever is leavened is not to be seen with you. The leaven is not to be seen within all your borders. And you shall inform your son in that day, saying, it is because of what Jehovah did for me when I came up out of Mitzrayim. Important. It shall be a sign to you on your hand, and as a reminder between your eyes. The Torah of Jehovah is to be in your mouth, for with a strong hand Jehovah has brought you out of Mitzrayim. And you shall guard this law at its appointed time from year to year. And I'll pause there if you have any questions or comments.
Just interesting that it says, and it shall be a sign to you on your hand, and as a reminder between your eyes, the very location of the mark of the beast, showing you that maybe we should think a little bit more deeply about what that could be, but that's it.
Yep. Yeah, it's there's a few verses that say that, like, as a sign upon your hand, as it's frontless between your eyes, or a reminder between your eyes, where, the Sabbath, the Torah, the Moedim, all these are signs. These are what identifies you and connects you to the Creator.
Right. Which would be the seal or the mark that protects you in the end. Go ahead.
Correct. Yes. I believe that if you don't have these other precursors, or these things are necessary for you to have that sign that's spoken of in Revelation that seals you up and keeps you safe. Agreed. You're obviously going to have these other signs. Okay, so tomorrow is, according to my calendar, tomorrow is Shavuot, which is the ending of the first fruits. So during first fruits, which is on the first, which we'll address later, but it's on the first day of the week during Matzot. And 7 weeks later is Shavuot, which is always in the third month, from the 4th day to the 12th day in the third month. And the reason that Shavuot is the most likely is because after they came out of Egypt, they stopped. And Yah had called Moshe up, and he says, you need to give this message to the people. And he says, after the message, he says, you get them ready for 3 days. They're not even supposed to come near their wife for those 3 days, and then tell them to meet me at the bottom of the mountain. And that's when they got the commands at Sinai. Okay. So in the third month, after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, on the day that they came into the wilderness of Sinai, for they set out from Rephidim and had come to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. So Yisrael camped there before the mountain. And Moshe went up to Elohim, and Yehovah called to him from the mountain, saying, this is what you're supposed to say to the house of Yaakov and declare to the children of Yisrael. Now, what you're about to hear is a disclaimer to say that I'm allowed to make this covenant with you. I'm allowed to make this contract with you. I'm allowed to make this oath for you. And that's going to come up later, oath, that you saw what I did to the Mitzrites, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. And now, so here's the disclaimer. If you diligently obey my voice, which is actually Shema, Shema, hear and obey, you shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession, Segula, above all the peoples. And then he says, I can do this because for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Israel. So after they got out of Egypt, he got to a certain point, he stopped everybody, and he's like, okay, let's make a deal here. Let's make a contract. Let's make a commitment. Let's make an oath. So this is where that happened, and most likely this is what Shavuot is about.
It's interesting to note that it seems that we're basically in a similar setting now where there would be another exodus because we're underneath the reign of a society or civilization that still uses the exact same symbology of the Egyptian civilization, and they're starting to clamp up with the beast system built around us, and we have to get our way out of it. So if we were to look at it like this could be applicable to now, which it appears to literally be, then it seems pretty clearly that his covenant is a major aspect of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also very similar to the book of the Revelation. Like, you're going to have to make a commitment either for the world system or the system of the anti-Messiah or with Yah. There's only two options here. But whichever way you go, you've made a covenant because it says after you take the mark, that's it. You're done. There's no excuse. You've already made a commitment to the beast system.
Right.
All right. So Exodus chapter 23. In all that I have said to you, take heed and make no mention of the name of other mighty ones. This is Elohim, by the way. Make no mention of the name of other mighty ones. Let not it be heard from your mouth. So you don't call on other deities by the name of Gad or Baal, aka Lord, right? 3 times a year you are to observe the festival to me. You guard the festival of unleavened bread, matzot. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, matzot as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the renewed moon of Aviv, which should be of the Aviv. For in it you came out of Mitzrayim, and you do not appear before me empty-handed. Exodus 23:16. The festival of the harvest, matzot, the first fruits of your labors which you've sown in the field, Shavuot, and the festival of the ingathering at the outgoing of the year when you gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field, Sukkot. Now the outgoing of the year is the outgoing of the growth cycle of the year, because you don't have harvestable crops in the winter. Matzot is unleavened breads. Shavuot means sevens, weeks, or oaths. Sukkot. Sukkot is a plural for sukkah. This should be sukkah. Oh, no. Okay, pluralize this. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Shelters is Sukkot. Sukkah is a temporary shelter made from suk, which means thicket or gathered sticks. 3 times a year, all your males are to appear before the Master Yehovah. And that's translated as Lord God, because it doesn't work when they have their replacement theology, because then it would say Lord, Lord. So they change it from Master Yehovah to Lord God.
Interesting.
All right. Exodus 34:18. Guard the festival of unleavened bread, matzot. For 7 days you eat unleavened bread, matzot, as I commanded you in the appointed time of the renewed moon of the Aviv. Because in the renewed moon of the Aviv, you came out of Mitzrayim. The reason I'm updating this is because when I'm done with this, people can email me and get a copy of these notes if they want. Cool?
Sweet.
All right, Leviticus 23. If you really want just a chapter that all encompasses the Moedim, Leviticus 23 is it. I did take the time to remove the animal sacrifices that are only to be done at the temple, because obviously the temple no longer stands. But everything else is in here, and then I added some definitions within the text so that you can look up these things for yourself and find out that I'm not just making up my own thing from my occultic knowledge as been claimed.
So wait, what you're saying is the instructions that are relevant to the temple that is no longer standing don't apply to us because there is no longer a temple, but since there's no longer a temple, that doesn't mean that we should throw out all the rest of them, because the rest of them are still applicable, just not the one with the temple.
Right. I mean, it's to do for them easy, because when you look in like the KJV, it'll say like of meat offering, and it's actually grain from Hebrew to KJV. It's really weird.
Wait a second, Jack.
the appointed
Hey, wait. Check.
times of Yehovah, which you're to proclaim. I'm listening.
Oh, yeah, you're like skipping and the laying and breaking up for me. I'm trying to see. Can we get a little feedback in the chat? I just want to make sure. I just want to see if it's on my end of what I'm hearing or it's actually going through the stream like that.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you sound better now. What a coincidence.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
Where did I start breaking up? Just at the Leviticus part?
Literally as soon as I passed the question to you.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. Leviticus 23:2. Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, the appointed times of Yehovah, which you are to proclaim as set apart gatherings, my appointed times are these. The first one mentioned is the weekly Sabbath, which people don't even think about it like, oh, that's not one of the feasts, which I don't even like the word feast because it's appointments, and some of them you definitely should not be feasting on. But it says 6 days work is to be done, but the Sabbath day is the Sabbath of rest. And if you need to know the stipulations of Sabbath, just do a word search for Sabbath and you'll see, don't work, don't let anybody work for you, don't kindle a fire. That's basically it. 6 days work is to be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest. This word rest is similar to Sabbath, but it's actually Sabbaton. The on on the end is a Hebrew suffix that means diminutive or smaller. So it's smaller than a Sabbath, but it's a rest. Okay? That's important. A set-apart gathering, you do no work. It is a Sabbath to Yehovah in all your dwellings. So during the Sabbath, you do no work. Leviticus 23:4. These are the appointed times of Yehovah, set-apart gatherings which you're to proclaim at their appointed times. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, which is which month? What's the first month called? Did you put me on hold?
No.
Okay, you're not there. Sorry.
No, I'm here. I'm trying not to I think if I add the video, maybe that's what's glitching it out. More bandwidth demand. I don't really know. But
okay, so do you remember what the first month is called?
What the first month is called in Hebrew?
Yeah.
No.
All right. Just going back for this is important for everybody. So I'm just going back and then I'll go straight back down right here. Right here. Month of the Aviv.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I do.
So that's not the name of the month. The name of the month is the first month. But it is the month of the Aviv. So when it says in the first month, there's only 1 month that the barley is Aviv. And on the 14th day of that month, between the evenings, is Passover to Yehovah. On the 15th day of this month is the festival of unleavened bread, matzot, to Yehovah. 7 days you're to eat unleavened bread, matzot. On the first day, you have a set-apart gathering during matzot. All right? So the matzot is 7 days long. So on the first day of those 7 days, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. And the servile work is abodah. And abodah means servitude. It's from the root eved, which means servant. Okay, so no servile work means you don't work for anybody. It doesn't mean don't do any work, because you'll see later that you're allowed to prepare for the moed on these days. This is not a Sabbath. This is a set-apart day where you do no servile work. And you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yehovah for 7 days. On the 7th day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. And Yehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, when you come into the land which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of first fruits of your harvest to the priest. First fruits. Okay?
Okay.
Now, when is first fruits? He shall wave the sheep before Yehovah on your acceptance on the morrow after the Sabbath. So what day of the week of that is that? The morrow after the Sabbath. First day, second day, third day, fourth day?
Yeah, first day. It's Sunday. It's Sunday, Jack.
No, we'll say the first day of the week. That works for me.
Okay, all right. Well, we won't say the sun worship day. Go ahead.
Okay. On the morrow after the Sabbath, or the first day of the week, the priest waves the first fruit offerings. You do not eat bread or roasted grain. This is what I was talking about before. You can't eat the roasted grain until you bring the first fruit offering in, or of the fresh grain until the same day that you brought in the offering to Elohim. A law forever. Whoops.
Wait, for how long? Wait, how long is it?
A law forever.
Wait,
And
forever?
yeah, I got to go back down.
Wow, it's
Lost
a
my
law
place, sorry.
forever. That's interesting.
Yes.
Wait, Jack, does forever mean just until we started building churches that were Christian and
Yes.
we changed it, or what?
Yeah,
Is...
religion changes everything, don't you know?
Okay, so forever to church. Okay, go ahead.
A law forever throughout your generations in all of your dwellings. So a law forever is like you could say, oh, well, that just means a long time, but not forever. Okay, well, what about throughout your generations?
So it's a law forever throughout your generations.
Yeah, wait, hold on. But what if you move out of Israel in all of your dwellings?
Wow, everywhere you go, even everywhere you go forever for all your
where you live, no matter how many generations you have.
Wow, that must mean for a short period of time, only whenever you're in Israel and not forever, right?
Okay. If you wanna make up your own religion, that's how you would do it. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. And from the morrow.
Time out, Jack. We got robot going on.
After the.
All right.
On me, on you.
Yeah, it's on you. You're roboting like you're in a Will Smith movie. We're gonna wait just a couple seconds. I think that the Gravelers don't they love our conversation and they just want to make sure that they put us off long enough so they can join. We'll give them a couple seconds to join. What's up to the chat? What's up, guys? We're learning how somehow forever means not forever. It's very similar to being a globe earther whenever you try to defend modern Christianity. All right, Jack. Yes, let's see. Let's get
like a curving level, water level curving. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very similar to that. You sound good again. Go ahead.
Okay. From the morrow after the Sabbath, which is which day?
Sunday. Oh, not sun worship day. I'm trolling. The first day.
The first day of the week, right? From that day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, the first fruit offering, you shall count for yourselves 7 completed Sabbaths. Okay, so 7 times 7, that's 49. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath. Again, morrow after the Sabbath is the first day of the week. After 7 Sabbaths, that's a complete total of 50 days. This is later. Yeah, this is later in New Testament called Pentecost, which means count 50 in Greek. But you'll never know about this because they don't teach about this in church. They only teach you about Pentecost.
Wow. So Pentecost is count 50 days. And we have 7 weeks of 7 days, being 49. And then we have the day after that.
Yes. Yep. Then you shall bring your new grain offering to Yehovah. And this is Shavuot. Now, if I am correct, and many people agree, that Exodus 19 is Shavuot, then this is a celebration of receiving the commands. So when Yeshua gave the fullness of Ruach Yehovah to his disciples, it was when they were celebrating the commands being given to them. I'm just saying, though. Okay? So they were celebrating receiving the commands on Pentecost. Am I roboting or am I good?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. All right. And when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your field when you reap, and do not gather any gleaning from your harvest, anything that falls to the ground. Let it fall. Leave it for the poor and for the stranger. I am Yehovah your Elohim. So he's saying, even when you do harvesting, like if you got a square field, just harvest the inner circle and leave the edges and whatever falls for people that are in need. That's very interesting. Leviticus 23:24. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, this is the fall now, on the first day of the month, you are to have a rest, a Sabbaton, a remembrance of blowing of trumpets. This is the Feast of Trumpets, or Day of Trumpets, which is Yom Teruah. Yom Teruah. You do no servile work. What kind of work? Servile work. You don't know servile work. And on the 10th day of the 7th month is the Day of Atonement, Yom HaKippurim. And it shall be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall afflict your beings. Now, I have a major contention with this afflict your beings thing. Sorry, guys, if it makes you mad that I'm updating this as I'm going through. It shall be a set apart gathering for you, and you shall afflict your beings. If you break down the Hebrew, and again, it's not just me. You can look this up for yourself. It's a vav as a prefix, which means and then it's the word ayin, which means eye or look at, using your eye to look. And then it has the suffix of a yod, which means me. And then it has a kaf mem, which means yous guys. It's actually plural you. So, and look, me, you. So I say that this is a day of self-inspection, not a day of afflicting. I don't walk around and hit myself with a hose or sit in a fire ant pile or, I don't afflict my soul. I think it's a very bad translation.
Right. What a crazy little grabbler way to take that, man. Like, I guess they do. What do they
weird
just
stuff.
torture themselves? They torture themselves for a day or something?
They do weird stuff in Israel. Like there's different weird rituals that they do for this day to afflict their souls. So it can get weird. If you leave it open to interpretation,
But they're not
crazy.
they're not allowed to charge any interest for a day or what?
I think they have to do like several hours of like nodding and praying, and like you have to do a repeat after me kind of ceremony stuff, but they also do some weird ritualistic stuff as well, which you can do your own research on that. It gets pretty weird. All right.
Go ahead.
So for any being who is not afflicted or looking on that same day, he shall be cut off from his people. Any being who does any work. Now, this is not servile work. This is any being who does any work on that same day. That being shall I destroy from the midst of his people. You do no work, a law forever, throughout your generations, in all your dwellings. There we go again. So forever and ever, no matter how many children or grandchildren you have, no matter where you live, it is a Sabbath of Sabbaton to you. You shall, I look, me and them, on the 9th day of the month at even, from evening until evening, you observe your Sabbath. Now, there is a contention in Torah observant communities on what is a day. Well, I believe that Genesis tells us what a day is. The day is the light, and Lila is the night. So when it says Yom, I consider that the light part of the day. But this verse right here shows you that a day does not start at sunset. Because if it did start at sunset and it was the 10th day, they would say start it on the 10th evening until the 11th evening. But it says start at the 9th evening, so at the end of the 9th day, until the 10th evening at the end of the 10th day. That's the only way it works, is if day means daylight. Okay?
Whoa, that's some gravy.
All right. Leviticus 23:34. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, on the 15th day of the 7th month is a festival of booths, Sukkot. Remember, that's dwelling in temporary dwellings made of thicket or collected sticks. For 7 days to Jehovah. On the first day is a set apart gathering. You do no servile work. And on the 8th day, there shall be a set apart gathering for you. It is the closing festival. You do no servile work. Now, it's very interesting, this 8th day festival. Okay. Now, if you go throughout the scriptures and you try to find what this 8th day festival is about, it doesn't seem to have any actual connection. But there is something that does repeat about the 8th day. And that's when a male child is born, that he is circumcised on the 8th day. Now, if you read the story of Yeshua, it says that there was no room for him in the inn. And if you correlate by using the Septuagint, the word for inn is the same as the word for sukkah. So it could be that Yeshua had no room in the sukkah, but he was circumcised on the 8th day, like the 8th day, the 8th day. So it's possible that Yeshua was born in the Feast of Sukkot, circumcised on the 8th day, with the 8th day festival. It's just a guess. It seems pretty cool.
Interesting, for sure.
Leviticus 23:37. These are the appointed times of Yehovah, which you're to proclaim as set apart gatherings on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you gather in the fruit of the land. And that doesn't mean fruit, it means like the harvest of the land. Observe the festival of Yehovah. I got to fix that. Don't like that. Change it to mine. There we go. For 7 days. On the first day is a rest, a Sabbaton. And on the 8th day is a rest, a Sabbaton. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of good trees, the branches of palm trees, twigs of leafy trees, willows of the stream, and shall rejoice before Yehovah your Elohim for 7 days. Now, when I first started getting into Torah stuff, there are some people of certain faith that literally goes out and gets a branch from a palm, branch of the leafy tree, whatever that is, the willow, and they take it and they shake it. They do that, and they do it 4 directions, and they say this is how they celebrate before Yah for 7 days in these different twigs. But I think when it's talking about taking the branches of all of these trees, it means you're making a temporary dwelling, so you're going to need to gather sticks. You're going to need to gather branches to make your temporary dwelling. And you celebrate before Yehovah for 7 days by, partying. It talks about, like, if you're going up during the appointed times, that if the way is too far for you, you sell your tithe, you exchange it for silver, and you exchange that silver for whatever your soul lusteth after, whether it be expensive meat or strong drink, a portion of your tithe for that. So if he's talking about you get whatever your soul lusteth after, even strong drink, this is what he's talking about, celebrating before Yehovah for 7 days. It's the party. You cut loose. And the way that I do it is there's another verse that says you do not do as the heathen do. They pour out their drink offerings to their deities, like pouring one out for the homies, which is very interesting. But you always drink unto Yehovah. So that's what I do. Every drink I take, I say, La Yehovah, take a drink, and it's a good time. All right. Leviticus 23:41. And you shall observe a festival to Yehovah for 7 days in that year, a law forever. Again, in your generations, observe it in the 7th month. Dwell in booths, Sukkot, for 7 days, so that your generations know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. I am Yehovah, your Elohim. Thus did Moshe speak of the appointed times of Yehovah to the children of Israel. All right, I got a pausing part here if you want to say anything, ask anything.
No, I'm just sitting in, just listening, man. I hope that people
Notice her favorite.
Yeah, I hope people are just paying attention and trying to soak in what it is that we're discussing: the Moedim, the appointments, the proper, let's just say, quantification of the days, the year, how this works, the actual calendar, not the Gregorian, Julian calendar. It comes with specific instructions. Basically, what you're saying here is it appears that this appointment laid out via the instructions isn't just particularly strenuous. So it seems to be one of those reoccurring themes where it's actually for our benefit and for us to enjoy and prosper. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to look through the chat here, see if there's any questions. I don't see anything really, but yeah. All right, moving on. All right, Numbers chapter 10, another encompassing of the Moedim, speaks to the children of Israel, saying, when any male of your generations is unclean for a being. That means, like, if, let's say you had an ox die on your property and you had to bury it, or if a family member of yours died and you had to bury them or whatever, so that makes you unclean. So it says that if you're unclean for a being, an entity, a living entity, or it is far away on a journey, he shall perform the Passover of Yehovah on the 14th day of the 2nd month. Between the evenings they perform it. With unleavened bread, matzo, and bitter herbs, they can eat it. So if you could not make it to the set apart location, which again, we don't have the temple anymore, but if you missed it, he actually gave you another opportunity to make sure that you caught it, to have Passover and unleavened bread. You just go to the second month. They do not leave any of it till morning. They do not break a bone of it. According to all the laws of the Passover, they shall perform it. Passover is a sacrifice. It is not a moed. It is not a Sabbath. It is not a festival. It is a sacrifice. Yes, it is eaten with bitter herbs and unleavened bread. But if you look at like Judaism or Messianic Judaism or anything, and they do that whole Seder thing, that's not what Passover is supposed to be about. There's no rituals that you have to follow other than eating with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. That's it. But the man who is clean and is not on a journey, if he's failed to perform the Passover, that being shall be cut off from among his people because he did not bring the offering of Yehovah at its appointed time. That man bears his sin.
Real fast. What about a family going out? Not really practical for them to make a house out of sticks that holds the whole family. Response.
So when I build my sukkah, it's big enough to hold the whole family. If you make a bunch of little sukkahs, or some people use tents, because they justify that it's a temporary dwelling made of sticks. Now they're fiberglass sticks under tarps and stuff, but I build an actual branches sukkah, and some of my family stays in it, some of it prefers not to, and they sleep in tents. So
thank you for answering that, sir.
To each one, stick to your convictions, but always seek truth. All right.
Thanks.
Numbers 9:13. But the man who is clean and not on a journey. Okay, I already read that one. Sorry. 9:14. When a stranger sojourns among you. So that means like they weren't born and raised in Israel. They just figured out that they should get with Israel because they know what's up. When a stranger sojourns among you, then he shall perform the Passover of Yehovah, and he shall do according to the law of the Passover, according to its right ruling. You have one law both for the stranger and the native of the land. Number 16. Guard the renewed moon of the Aviv and perform the Passover or Pesach to Yehovah your Elohim, for in the renewed moon of the Aviv, Yehovah your Elohim brought you out of Mitzrayim by night. And you shall slaughter the Pesach to Yehovah your Elohim from the flock and the herd in the place where Yehovah chooses to put his name. Of course, we no longer have that location. You eat it with no leavened bread, for in 7 days you eat unleavened bread with it, the bread of affliction, because you came out of the land of Mitzrayim in haste. You didn't have time to let it rise, so that you remember in the day in which you came out of the land of Mitzrayim all the days of your life. No leaven should be seen with you in all your border for 7 days. Verses 5-7. When the tabernacle and later temple house the ark called by his name, you're not allowed to slaughter the Passover within your gates, which Yehovah your Elohim gives you. But the place where Yehovah your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell, there you are to slaughter the Passover in the evening, at the going down of the sun, at the appointed time that you came out of Mitzrayim.
And let me just say this real fast. As to the repetitive comments about Bible thumping the Bible, go grow food. Look, man, we get it. Okay, you got it all figured out. If that's the case,
you have to grow. You have to grow food to keep these commands.
yeah, and that's always taken out of it. I just want to say this. I'm not going to put anyone on blast. Like, a bear name does not keep you safe here. It doesn't mean you get a full pass no matter what. This is for the people that want to learn it. If you think that the scriptures aren't true and you aren't ready spiritually to understand that it's time that we dive in and figure these truths out, cool, bro, but stop distracting the chat. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. I just grabbed a comment here that says Ishtar egg hunting. I find it very interesting that on the Seder plate of the Jews, they have an egg for fertility. Very interesting. Yeah, it's not in the scriptures, but it's on their Seder plate. Anyway.
Grabblers.
It also, if you remember up here, I read that when you have the Passover lamb, you don't break the bone. And the Jews purposely leave a broken bone on the Seder plate saying this is not the true Passover. So that's interesting as well. But it's like they break the command to show that they're not really keeping the command because they can't keep the command because they don't have the right way to keep the command, so they do it the opposite. It's really weird. And you shall roast and eat it in the place which Yehovah your Elohim chooses. In the morning you shall turn and go back to your tents. Again, that was when the tabernacle or temple was still established. 6 days you eat unleavened bread, matzah. On the 7th day, there is a closing festival to Jehovah your Elohim. You do no work. On the 7th day of matzot. You count 7 weeks, or Shavuot, for yourself. Begin to count 7 weeks, or Shavuot, from the time that you begin to put the sickle to the grain. And you shall perform the festival of weeks, Shavuot, to Jehovah your Elohim, according to the voluntary offering from your hand, which you give as Jehovah your Elohim blesses you. So this is the most interesting command I find about sacrifices. Because on Shavuot, the offering that you give to Yehovah is what you expect him to bless you with. So in other words, I'm going to be very blessed by Yehovah this year. So I'm going to put apart this large portion as an offering to Yehovah. The way that me and my wife do it is, during the springtime, we kind of get in this fallen system, we kind of get this big check from taxes, and we use a large portion of that to put it in the tithe monies to take care of widows, orphans, and those in need. So we give larger than typical because we trust Yehovah to give us,
right. Basically,
that year.
It's physical action that is a sign of faith.
Yeah, it's a definite sign of faith because there's no specific ordinance. Like there's plenty of places where it says you got to give this many omers, or you have to give this much weight, or this many animals, or whatever. This one specifically says, which you give as Jehovah your Elohim blesses you. You give what you feel Jehovah is blessing you with. And it kind of reminds me of that whole Cain and Abel situation, where it's like Cain gave what he was supposed to, but like he did it begrudgingly. Like, yeah, here's what you asked for. And Abel, it was more like, yeah, I'm going to give you the best of the best that I got. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, 16:11. And you shall rejoice. Again, command to rejoice before Jehovah your Elohim, you and your son and your daughter and your male servant and your female servant and the Levite who is within your gates and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow who are in your midst at the place where Jehovah your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell. So I don't know how accurate this is, but there are historical testimonies that people would bring their first fruit offerings and then they would exchange it, and they would purposely try to find a widow or an orphan or a Levite that they could give to before they would even partake of the festivities, so to speak, so that nobody was without. All right.
Nice.
Deuteronomy 16:12. And you shall remember that you were a slave in Mitzrayim, and you shall guard and do these laws. If people say I was never a slave in Mitzrayim, dude, the system that we're in right now, you're a slave, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, this is modern day Mitzrayim, Mike. It still has the same exact symbols as the Egyptian civilization.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we pay homage to America.
Dude, it literally, if you go to Washington, D.C., it has the same exact symbols as Egypt. like
Yeah. Perform the festival of booths or Sukkot for 7 days after the ingathering of your threshing floor. Threshing floor is where they're separating the grain from the chaff, and the chaff will burn with unquenchable fire, by the way. And from your wine press, and you shall rejoice in your festival. Again, rejoice, 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 rejoice in your festival, you and your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, and the Levite, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are within your gates. For 7 days you shall observe a festival to Jehovah your Elohim in the place which Jehovah chooses. And there we go. Because Jehovah your Elohim does bless you in all of your increase and in the work of your hands, and you shall only be rejoicing. You shall be only rejoicing for that whole week. People ask me, I only don't have to work the first day and the 8th day, right? I take the whole week off because I find it very hard. I find it very hard to be rejoicing all week when I'm stuck at work.
So you have to be rejoicing all week. So only rejoicing that. So I guess this excludes females.
What? What are you talking about?
You have to rejoice. You can only rejoice the entire week.
I don't get it.
It's strictly
What are you saying?
rejoicing, right? You like rejoice the entire week.
Yes.
Okay.
So what's
Cool.
that have to do with females?
Nothing. It was nothing.
Okay.
It was a joke.
All right, you lost me. I think you were trying to tell me a joke there, but I lost it. Sorry.
Yeah. That. Damn, bro. Way to just throw a hook
Sorry, I
at me.
missed that one. Over my head. Sorry.
No,
All right.
it's okay. So yeah, it's a time of rejoicing. Go ahead.
Yep. 3 times a year, all your males before. Now, when people are like, it says only males. No, dude. It just got through saying up here, you, your son, your daughter, your male servant, female servant, Levite, stranger, fatherless. This is not just the sons who show up, but all your males are required to make sure that they bring their family to rejoice for the 7 days. Okay.
Wow, that's
Before
a joke. I just made that joke. No wonder you didn't like accept the joke, because right under here it says 3 times a year all your males, and people would misconstrue that to be just males, and in fact it specifies up earlier that it's females too. And I was just making a joke, like, how are the females going to get together for a week and just be rejoicing strictly? But
is your daughter a male or female?
Female, yeah.
Is your female servant a male or female?
Well, it depends on how they identify, Jack.
Is a widow a male or female? And I'm not talking about today's terms. It's like
female for sure.
Yeah. All right. So, in the place where he chooses, a festival of unleavened bread, matzot, festival of weeks, Shavuot, the festival of booths, Sukkot, and no one should appear before Jehovah empty-handed. Now, I missed a verse in here that I know I should have included, and I got to find it. And I'll add it to the list of verses when people are looking this up. But there's a verse that says that when you leave to go up to the Moed, right? Because people didn't live right down the street from Jerusalem. Like, some people had to travel for like a week to get there. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes even more. But it says, don't worry about your household, because I will protect it while you go up to serve me. Did you get that?
Yeah. I thought you were roboting. Go ahead.
Am I roboting?
No, you're good.
Okay. But each one with the gift in his hand, according to the blessing of Yehovah your Elohim, which he has given you. Okay, so that covers that. Now you can talk about whatever you want, and I'm going to find that verse and stick it in this spreadsheet. But if you guys want the spreadsheet, just email me, justjackflatearth@gmail.com. And I'll send you a PDF copy of it. And again, don't listen to Jack. Okay? Look up what I have on the spreadsheet. Research it for yourself. Investigate what I'm saying and see if it's true. Word? You're muted.
I'm talking muted. God, what a Glover move. Yeah, so what else could you ask for other than that? We're just pointing to the information. My boy Jack did a great job breaking it down, going through it with you verse and verse, and adding each context together so that we knew what was going on. And he's just telling you to go look into it for yourself. And of course, I think that this is obviously a big deal. If you think about what the word Moedim means, appointments of what? There's an appointment with the Father. He has an appointed time he wants to meet with you. If there's an appointed time that the creator of all things wants to meet with you, I would say it's probably pretty important to figure it out. And that's why I find it pretty entertaining that people are like, well, what does that do with growing food? Probably still digging in the ground, right? Well, the person that made the food grow, we should probably get right with him. This is about like meeting the creator, the Father of all things has given us an appointed time, and we don't even know what they are. They gave us different holidays.
I mean, man plants the seed, but Yah turns the seed into a plant. So I'm just saying. So.
Yeah. So it, as you can, and in fact, my point here being is, people are like, you're Bible thumping. What about growing food? And it's like, we're probably still digging in the ground and raping the earth and not letting it rest every 7 years. And if you don't know you have to let your land rest every 7 years, it's not going to grow proper. If you're really all about crop production and your yield, you should probably do it the right way.
And when you plant your fruit tree, you're not supposed to eat of the fruit for the first 4 years. You're supposed to let that fall to the ground and become fertilization. That's in the scriptures as well.
Wow, I did not know that part. That's some gravy right there, because we know that just letting the natural foliage build up is the best fertilizer you can have. It displaces moisture, it retains moisture as needed, et cetera, et cetera. So the scriptures seem to be great insight into your obsession with growing food, which I don't knock, but I just think it's funny that people think that supersedes the scriptural truth of the appointments.
Were you frozen or me? Or both?
That
of
was
us?
you. That was you. It was probably your CIA handler. Yeah, we busted. You're busted, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn off the screen. Stop cam. There you go. Maybe that helps. Now I can take my hat off. I wore my hat because I noticed sometimes in the stream, like I have a huge glare on my forehead and it's very distracting. And people can't hear what I'm saying because of bright light.
Someone says, what are you supposed to do for the 4 years? He was saying that you're supposed to, if you grow a fruit tree, you're actually supposed to leave the fruit alone and not eat it for 4 years, let it fall and become fertilization.
Yep. Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, if you did this for generations, let's say, right, like it was already established. I mean, when they went into the land, there was already fruit trees there that they didn't plant, that they were just supposed to nurture. But if you have like a generational thing where you have fruit trees being planted, then the fruit from the fruit trees become the seeds that you plant for the next crop of fruit trees. So while those ones are maturing, you eat the fruit of the previous plant. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. But the problem is, yeah, we're so far lost, we're so far gone that, you know, we have to start from scratch pretty much. But anybody who wants to look into an interesting video about like permaculture that goes along with like the scripture perspective. Now, this guy's a little Christian for my taste, but I think the information is valid. Watch the video called Back to Eden. It's pretty tight.
Right, and it says here, someone said, where does it say that? I believe it's Leviticus 19:23, yeah. And when ye shall come into the land, this is KJV, of course, and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, when ye shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised, 3 years shall it be as uncircumcised unto you, it shall not be eaten of.
Yep, and then you eat it in the 4th year.
Right, you eat it the 4th year,
and
so Leviticus 19:23. Yeah,
and then the other 19:23, no. Oh, Leviticus, sorry. I was reading Exodus. Anyway, it's the same thing with the grain. You know, every 7 years, you let it die and become part of the soil. And it says that you'll get an abundance in the 6th year so that you can let it rest in the 7th year. And it will be such an abundance in the 6th year that it will last you all the way through until the 8th year.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
And I was talking to my buddy, Good Times for All, Zachary Zabala, and he says there's natural occurrences like this all over the world where like walnut trees, every 7 years, they have like a quadruple yield.
Right. That's awesome, bro. I think it's pretty insanely hilarious how applicable this is to someone that's just really concentrated on growing food. Like there's actually a specific guideline, like list of instructions as to how to grow food and how it works. Like letting the crop rest in the 7th year. On the 6th year, you're going to yield more to make up for letting it rest in the 7th. And if you don't even know the natural cycle of how everything's working and how to optimize your yield, then I find it ironic that you think that growing food supersedes the scriptures. The instructions to every aspect of life is in the scriptures. That's the whole point.
Exactly. I mean, I think, where it's talking like, the way that the garden was, all you have to do is go out into a forest and you can see how the garden was, because the trees grow in a forest without anybody plowing the ground and planting seeds and da-da-da-da-da.
Yep, exactly. And of course, like the whole back to Eden gardening it's simply like, if you are to go to a place undisturbed, it will have layers and layers of soil built up from like just timber and trees and leaves that break down, and it creates the perfect soil. As you dig into the earth, you're actually raping it and making it less sufficient or efficient at growing food. Because
you take chemicals out and put chemicals in.
Yep. And it's simple things, right? Like, so it displaces the moisture as needed. It retains the moisture as needed. It'll be such hydrated vegetation that insects cannot eat it. They'll literally drown. So it's a natural insecticide as opposed to spraying with chemicals so harmful that eventually insects won't even eat it. Insects won't even eat what humans eat. And they had to keep updating it and making it more poisonous because the insects would adapt to continue to eat it. And now they won't even eat it, but humans eat it. When the truth is there's a natural insecticide and just proper hydration of the vegetation itself. Also, whenever we get organic food, it's more expensive because it's labor intensive, because they have people constantly going out there and pulling weeds. But whenever you use the proper type of soil, you can just take a rake and remove all the leaves instantly. So it removes like 90% of the labor, and you don't really have to do much except for let the stuff grow. And it is way better yield, way better fruit, way better size, and it can't be messed with by insects. This is just by not raping the earth, but rather letting it stack. And you can do this by taking some timber or a tree company close to you and then making wood chips. But of course, it's better to actually have the trees and the foliage that's local to your land to stack on top of it as it would be naturally. So the further along the avenue you get to trying to imitate what naturally is there, the better everything will grow. So if you're really obsessed with growing, you should look back at the scriptures, because the reason that everything grows is because the Creator made it that way. So I think this is very important. It's very important that we start to figure these things out so we can sustain ourselves without the system. So we need to dig through this and figure out every little detail.
Just to clarify what you were saying, proper hydration being a natural insecticide is because when bugs are eating plants, they're looking for the fiber. But if the water retention of your plants is high, then they basically drown, and they're like, oh, that's not what I'm looking for, and they go somewhere else to find a more dried out plant. Someone was asking about the Leviticus 23 on the Gregorian calendar and how is it supposed to be done. Well, it's literally impossible, because the reason the whole Gregorian calendar, or it actually started with the Greeks before the Romans got to it, but the Julian calendar is what it was adopted as last before Gregorian, is to hide the true calendar. That's why October is the 10th month instead of 8. Nove is 9. Deca or Desa is 10 or 10th. You can see how they changed the calendar. To know the beginning of the year is the renewed moon, the first light of the moon, and the Aviv barley, so the spring harvest. And I don't just go by Israel, I go by, worldwide even, because if you're in that mild weather area where they grow barley, it all is harvestable at the same time. So, and there's other people that have other tells that's in Scripture of how to determine the beginning of the year, and it's all based on spring of bird migrations and stuff. That's in other verses of the Scripture. I haven't gotten into too much, but it's pretty interesting. The other one is like you can tell by the star cycle, where the Virgo constellation, or Betula is what it's called in Hebrew, when the grain in her hand changes angle at the beginning of spring, then you know that the next month is the month of the Aviv. I mean, there's a lot of different things to look into, but I was just giving you the bare bones of what is specifically written in Torah about the calendar. Yes, Julius Caesar for July, Caesar Augustus for August. Yeah, absolutely. It's all replacement.
Let me read these super chats off so Scott doesn't think that I missed them. Flat Earth Boxer Revived. Can you please link in the comment your Hebrew Matthew Gospel so we can read for ourselves? I'll pay $20 for the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, you and Jack use, so we can use it for ourselves. Just screenshot the first page of it and post it and show it on stream. I had to handle something. Sorry, did you respond? So, man,
so
super chats.
I left a link in the last stream. I didn't know if he got that or not. I didn't see if he replied because I was, reading my thing. Boxer, did you get that link that I put in the last chat for the screenshot of the first page on Nehemiah's website?
And
I know it's going to take a second, but
we'll wait for him to respond. And it is interesting that, of course, they say that December 10th month is actually the 12th month, and it's the beginning of the new year in the middle of winter, as stupid as that is.
And Janus is the two-headed goddess, Janus.
Yeah. Dude, even in the pagan cultures back then, they knew that the year began in spring, right? And then they usually didn't even quantify the days until times of war, and so they would march on their enemies. God of war, Mars, that's where you get March. They would begin the calendar quantifying the days when they would actually go into war, and they would always proceed to attack the enemy during spring when it warmed back up and they could go fight. So like even the pagan different cultures, they knew that the year began in the spring. And of course it does when life begins to grow again. It's wildly insane that they've convinced people that it begins in the middle of winter. But I think this is all because they don't want us to actually be able to get to the Moadim, where maybe we get revelation, maybe where his people get stronger and they learn the plan of action. They learn how to connect with people. They don't want us to figure out these appointments And if you're seeking the will of the Father, He's going to bring you towards learning more about these appointments, so you'll be ready for what's coming. It seems a reoccurring theme in all the believers that I know, and they all feel led to randomly sell their house in the suburbs and in the city and move and get land and grow food and network with other believers and figure out the true calendar and the true Moedim and get back to the Torah. He's getting us prepared, and we need to just swallow our pride and learn. We have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, so he's asking for the link again. So I am looking. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to search. I found it last time. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, Nehemiah Gordon, man, they break down in depth, like verse by verse. He shows you all the different resources, how many different manuscripts there are, how many say this.
23 manuscripts.
Yeah, and the differences within. Like, guys, we didn't just wake up and just make stuff up. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, this thing.
He needs to understand. It isn't one majestic copy of the Hebrew version of Matthew.
Oh no.
There are numerous manuscripts that are being compared in Hebrew of the Gospel of Matthew.
Yes, and the thing about it is I mean, I don't know how much you touched on it before, but basically, a lot of these copies were in Jewish libraries, which Jews were not looking for, Matthew. The Jews are not looking for Hebrew Gospel of Matthew. So this guy, being a ancient Hebrew linguist, and he was looking for this specific Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, went and looked in these libraries, and even the guy who worked at the library asked him, was there anything interesting that you found in this manuscript? And he says, well, why did you ask? Because he's been there many times and taken out many manuscripts. And he says, well, that's the first time this manuscript's ever been looked at in the collection. Sorry, right. That's I'm looking into last week's chat or last stream.
Nehemiah Gordon, he's a scholar, right? And he knows Hebrew very well. That the reason that it's important to understand this is everyone just wants this real quick answer that they can either throw away or accept or whatever. But this is this guy looking into the different transcripts, looking into potential changes from one copy to a next, why they would assume it to be a certain context, why they may have interpreted it a certain way, transliterations, comparing the accuracy of them, right? And how many of them say one thing compared to the other, and the time errors and the context within. And when he's taken all of these variables into account to get an accurate reading of the Hebrew version of Matthew, it's important to understand that, like, we're not just going to link you one magical copy of Matthew that gives you all the answers, because that's not the most, like, intellectually honest way to view this. You would want to find out exactly what it is saying in Hebrew, and then how much it was changed in Greek, and some of the changes that seem to be more ambiguous, right? And some of the scripts, and comparing and contrasting all of them. That's what's going on. That's where the study of the Hebrew Matthew comes from. Scripts do not someone doesn't just go into a field and pick up one script and say, this is the perfect one. Yeah. That isn't how this works.
I mean, even in the Greek New Testament as well, you have over 5,000 manuscripts, but they're not exactly all word for word exactly the same. They're just not. But what they do is they try to use, well, I mean, you hope that they're using, like, linguistic integrity to find out, okay, here's where they added something in the sub notes that they may have added into future copies. Like if you get a commentary by some guy and then later on that gets copied into one of the transcripts, you have to identify that it was originally in a margin and not make sure it doesn't end up in the next copy. So I'm posting a link to that thing. It says something about that's not a whole page, it's a half page. Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I don't have all 23 manuscripts. I mean, I think if you email him, he can tell you how to get a hold of them. But I know that he's spent a lot of time, energy, and money to get these manuscripts. I mean, he's actually flown to a lot of different countries just to hold the actual copy in his hand and get a new digital copy of it, so.
Yeah. And again, we're not saying that we consider any specific one superior. You keep saying all I'm asking for is a manuscript you consider superior. It's the scholastic approach of comparing all of the manuscripts in Hebrew.
No, I mean, the contest of the last time that he was in here, he says that it doesn't say Yeshua, it says Yesu. Well, that's true. Some of them use the more modern Hebrew abbreviated Yesu, but there are some that still preserved Yeshua with the ayin on the end. And that one that he photocopied for 18 by 24 little printout thing, it says it right there. You can actually zoom in on it right there on that page. But yeah, I think if you contact Nehemiah, if you go to Nehemiah's wall, and it's without an H on the end, it's Nehemiah with an A, Nehemiah's wall, and you go to contact, I'm sure you can ask him, how can I get a copy of these 23 manuscripts? That's your best bet. I would love to have all 23 manuscripts in my collection myself. That would be awesome.
Yeah. And I think he's basically trying to push back or clap back on the idea.
So Flat Earth Boxer, I completely agree with what you're saying. Yesu is absolutely a curse, and it was written down by the Jew who made that copy, because what he was doing is he was copying the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew to fight against Catholics. That was during the Spanish Inquisition. So why would he call him by his true name rather than the rabbinic tradition of calling him Yesu? Of course he's going to call him Yesu. But exactly. some of the copies do not hold that transition.
Don't. Actually, I respect this guy for just being that interested in wanting to figure it out. I got no problem with it.
I agree with him 100%. Like, I'm the one who brought that information to you, that Yesu means may his name and memory be blotted out.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's trying to figure out basically if some of these Hebrew versions say that, what's going on. He's skeptical of them. I guess I do find it counterintuitive, though, to immediately lean towards like some type of allegiance to the Greek, and like the Greek transcripts as if they're more accurate or something. I think that they're all genuinely pretty accurate, and I think that the polytheistic pagan touch on the Greek scripts have gotten a bit out of hand. Certainly, years and years attached into English. So yeah, we know that there's a curse with the abbreviation, the short name of Yeshu, right? And yes. That you have it, may his name and remembrance be blotted out. We know that many of these Jews were actually just defending themselves against Catholics, basically like, defend your side of the argument in court as to why our Christian religion isn't true. And then if they were wrong, then they would basically be converted into Catholicism. If they were proven right, or as in they won the argument, they would be asked to leave. So there's really no winning. There are numerous scenarios like this. There are numerous different motivations for them copying it down in Hebrew is the point.
If you win the debate, you get to leave. If you lose the debate, you have to convert to Catholicism. So yeah, the guy, I mean, this is a majority of these copies of quote unquote Shem Tov's Hebrew Matthew, and Shem Tov, like he actually has arguments, in his own words. The author says ... Well, his arguments, you can see very clearly that he is a Jew fighting against Catholics that say convert or leave. So
interesting.
And then the printed version in the 1980s, I believe, was by oh my gosh, I just had it and I lost it. Sorry guys, I just had it, and
was it Michael Jones that did an exhortation of the Hebrew book of Matthew? I do not think so. Michael Jones? You're roboting. Jack. All right, Jack's roboting, so I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to unmute you. Yeah, you're roboting pretty bad for me. I'm assuming it's for everybody. I don't know if it's my service or what. All right, so I can't hear you, man. Jack, I can't hear you. I'm about to remove you. Dude, I can send you the link again and you can try to rejoin, but it's not working. I don't know. I think the audio is working when I speak over there on YouTube, but it's not working when you speak. I don't know what's going on. So remove in a world. I'm gonna try to get him back on here real fast. I'm gonna plan on doing much longer of a stream, so. Okay, trying to read the chat. Just a sec. Let me come over here. Paste. Oh, you're already back. Why are you on here twice, man? Hello.
No, I'm in upstate South Carolina, and he's in Western Tennessee. So,
all right, there we go. You're back, man. How's it going?
All right. Yeah. So George Howard was the guy who collected them in 1987, and he said I think he said there was 7 Shem Coves, Matthew, and he says sometime in the future people will probably find more, and Nehemiah has found 23. So.
Yeah, I binge watched it with Jack, bro. This dude, I don't just blindly believe what people say. They have to show me the evidence. And this dude goes in every angle, presents every potential avenue of interpretation. I get wordy sometimes just to make my point, but he just gives you every single aspect of the information or the evidence. He lets you make up your own mind. He's like, okay, well, they could be doing it because of this reason. This is a common use in this practice. This is how they were interpreting it here. This is this. They could be meaning this. We have this many of the transcripts saying this many of the manuscripts saying this. So like he gives you all the avenues, and then he lets you figure out which one's the most probable based on the evidence. So it's very thorough interpretation.
And some of them he gets, like, if you watch this guy, Austin can verify, sometimes when he sees a textual issue that is evident, and he calls it like a smoking gun, like he'll see Hebrew in the margin that gets put into a different translation, and he gets so excited. Dude, this guy is a scholastic scholar. He gets so excited when he sees a problem with translation, like, oh, this is that problem that they call blah 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 blah. I have an evidence of it right here. He gets super excited of it. This guy helped translate the Dead Sea Scrolls. He's not a knucklehead that's just making up stuff.
Yeah, and the manuscripts I'm finding in Nehemiah as well use the cursed name Yeshua. No, we just explained to you that some of them do, some of them do not. Many of the Jews did not believe in the Messiah or adhere to the Messiah. They had to address it. They had to track it down, scribe, rewrite it, interpret it, understand it, study it, so that they could debate and defend themselves against the Catholics. We just explained that. Not all of them say it, some of them do, but the point is that we have some type of loss of translation from the Hebrew, the original language, the language that Yeshua was speaking in, and then the Greek, and then now modern English. And we're going back to look through all of the transcripts and find out what they actually say. That's what we're trying to explain.
Scroll up, Flat Earth Boxer, scroll up to the blue link where it will take you to a picture of one that actually has Yeshua.
Dun, dun, dun. Right. Austin, do you have any idea where you're going to be during Sukkot? Like tour-wise, just wondering. If not, no worries. I do not yet. I'm planning to get all of the tour dates and everything mapped out here the next day before we dip. I'll know probably tomorrow. But I don't know how far out that I will be in the United States, that far out from now. So I will have to get back to you on that, brother. All right. So basically, and just to cover some of the basics before we wrap this subject, because it's already been an hour and a half, and I'm really kind of chilling. But so the way that people find out when the new year begins, how does that work for those that don't know?
The renewed moon, which is the way you begin a month. So the first light of the renewed moon, and then the Aviv tells you the springtime. Aviv barley means that it's near ready to be harvestable and roastable. And as far as the 7th month this year, which would be Yom Teruah, and then 2 weeks later is Sukkot. So Yom Teruah, or the first day of the 7th month, will begin either the 8th or the 9th of the 9th Gregorian month. FYI.
Nice. And you don't have to pay any more, Brad. Don't worry about that. The grabblers take a third of the money anyway. I don't do this for money. Don't care about money. We want to help you out, man. I don't care. But I thought he just answered that. So he's looking for the one that says Yeshua in it. You said you can actually scroll
Okay,
to the
if
top.
you click, if you, oh wait, I guess I could do it on mine. Hold on.
Well,
Hold on,
just
hold on,
describe
hold
it.
on.
I mean, I guess if you want
Yeah,
to.
he told me to share screen. So,
Do it.
trying to pull it up here. And then,
Oh, I don't
okay.
have it on.
Now I have to do share screen.
In a world.
All right, go to. Oh, how do I get back? Nabbit.
Sorry, bear
hold
with
on.
me. He doesn't have an Apple.
All right, share screen. Share screen. Window.
Hey, bro, we don't need your boomer commentary with each movement, man.
All right. So, can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Right here, if you can see my mouse on the far right in the middle, that is the ion on the end of Yeshua. There. So
Interesting.
and this is part block and part script, cursive Hebrew. So you have to know how to, decipher between the two of them.
Yeah, there's also a cursive version of the Hebrew. You want to run your mouse back over it one more time?
Oh,
All
my
right.
bad. Hold on.
No,
sorry.
It's all good. No, forget
Share,
it. It's
share.
all good.
Okay.
It's all good. I
Yeah,
mean, you showed
but
it.
that link is in there. You can look at it yourself. The ion, it kind of looks like a lowercase cursive Y. The ion does. So if that helps, I don't know.
Dun dun dun. So basically, in summary here, because I got to wrap this up, and I'm gonna read a couple of donations, and I just really want to crash, to be honest, so I can get up and leave and get everything done in the morning. But basically, the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar, they're bunk. The scriptures told us.
Oh, my bad. That was, sorry. That word that I was showing you was Yoshia, but 3 words back. So up to the left is where it says Yeshua. Sorry, that was my mistake. I was looking at Yoshia, which is what his name means. He will save. I'm going to show it. I'm sharing screen. Sharing screen.
Let's show it, Jack.
Screen. Window. Share screen. Share. Go back here. All right. Sorry. What I was showing you was Yoshia, but Yeshua is over here, right under this brown S. There's Yod, Shin, Vav, Ayin, right there. Yeshua. Can you see it under the brown S? You can read that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
No, I was muted, but I don't see your mouse, so no, I don't see it. This is the cursive version of Hebrew. There we go. I can see your mouse now.
Okay, so under the brown S, do you see the brown S?
No, man, I don't see a brown S, but it's really small on my screen, and I'm not gonna
No. There's a watermark on it. You know, a watermark. It says this watermark will. Okay, so under the S of this watermark.
Oh.
Right under the capital brown S. Yeah, that's Yeshua, right?
Jeez Louise, man. This guy's showing us a different language, saying, like, look at the S. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, can't you see the S? It's English, dude. It's an English S.
Okay,
but it has Yod, Shin, Vav, I.
Okay, right, I see it. Talking about underneath the watermark S. Yeah. And this is the manuscript from which the true doctrines can be derived. Look, man, doctrine is the man-made interpretation of men, which is redundant. Yeah. Interpretation built upon a doctrine of men is not what we're interested in. We're talking about what the scriptures say. We're comparing and contrasting all the actual scriptures and what they say. And yeah, there's a dang, Jack just disappeared, man. There is a few discrepancies in the Greek version of the Gospel of Matthew that are ironed out by whenever we look at these Hebrew versions. So the point that we're making is it's very possible, and in fact, we've actually already demonstrated it to be true by looking at them, that oftentimes important things are lost in translation. Slight things are changed here and there, conjunctions, prepositions, subject-verb agreement, just little swoops here and there in translations. Sometimes the Greek language is limited compared to what the Hebrew is actually trying to say. And so, yeah, we're looking at the actual scripts to see what all was lost in translation. Oh,
Yeah,
hey, what's up, man?
This is in the first section of Hebrew Gospel of Matthew. It says, "And you will call his name Yeshua, for Yeshua, for he will save his people." So
Interesting, man. Any closing thoughts you would like to share with the people regarding the subject before we wrap it up?
I'll just repeat. Don't take my word for it. Look into it, and you gotta use your own discernment. But if you want the printout, a PDF form, you can email me at justjackflatearth at gmail.com, and I'll send you one out.
Bang, bang. So
Groovy?
do that. Do it. Yeah, it's groovy, man. Thanks for kicking it, bro.
All right. Yeah, I spent all Shabbat putting that together, so I hope you guys appreciate it.
I do, man. I'm sure there are a lot of people here that do. There are always going to be some that don't. But what are you going to do? I think it was awesome. I enjoyed it.
All righty.
All right, bro.
Shalom,
cool,
y'all.
man.
And I'll talk to you tomorrow on Shavuot, brother.
Yeah. Just hit me up, and then we'll do another stream. We'll do another Shabbat stream next Saturday if you're available.
All righty. Sounds good. Next Shabbat, not Saturn's day.
Yeah. Touche.
All right. Talk to you later, brother.
All right, later, love. Bang, bang, my boy Just Jack's a legend. For all those tripping, talking about, he's a CIA operative. He's a handler. Watch yourself with Jack. As you can see, he shows you the actual scriptures. Anytime I had a question, I could ask him. We looked at the scriptures ourselves. We're asking you to do the same thing. Don't blindly believe anything. For those that actually have felt led to learn more about the scripture, stuff like this is awesome. It's exciting. It can be boring to other people. It's similar to how whenever we found out the Earth's on a magic spinning cartoon ball that defies physics and rather geocentric stationary plane, the Hebrew cosmology was accurate as per the scriptures with everything else in hindsight. But many people would be bored, right? The everyday person you're trying to talk to them about, dude, they lied about the Earth, bro. It doesn't spin and revolve. That's dumb. They're like, bored. What does it even matter? What are you talking about? The second law of thermodynamics for, bruh? I'm trying to play Call of Duty. That's kind of how a lot of people are with the scriptures, but there are numerous people that are being called to learn the instructions, to get back to what they truly mean, to humble ourselves, to find out what exactly it is that we're supposed to be piecing together for the end. And that's what these are for. And I'm glad that a lot of you guys are here rocking with us, figuring it out. It's a growing process. It's a learning process. So I'm going to go ahead and check the donations real fast and wrap it up. In a world, James Henry with the very generous donation, bro. Thank you very much. Shavuot offering, more music, please, with the fire emoji, anonymous. I'm sorry that I said your name. But thank you very much for the support, bro. It means a lot. And I do indeed plan on having some music coming in the future where I actually try to make the music instead of just randomly throwing gaming headphones on and rapping like I did in that one on some app on the iPad. Thank you, Angie, for the generous donation. Always helping a brother out. You the best, Angie. Much appreciated. Much love. You guys are awesome. Let me make sure that there's not another one over here. Yeah, I think that we're going to have some music coming in the near future, guys. Just be patient. Great debates and even better beat on your song at the beginning of your videos. Thank you very much. Much love. Appreciate the support. Edis. I hope that you pronounced your name correctly. All right. Sweet. So thanks for kicking it. Another Shabbat scripture study. And it's a lot. We're learning. It's just a crazy difference in what it is that we're supposed to be living like and how we're actually living. We're supposed to know about the land, how to work the land, what time of the year we're supposed to work the land relative to where we're living. Where we're living, we're going to have observations in the sky and in nature, the natural world, that actually show us what we're supposed to do when we're supposed to do it. We're going to know the actual dates based on what's going on in the sky and what's going on with the crops. We're going to know how to properly grow them. We're going to know how to let the food rest and how you get the best yield, etc. These are things that we're going to need to know to live outside of the beast system that they're building up all around, either rebuilding Babylon. Like I said, there's Egyptian icons and symbology all over this very country that you live in, if it's the United States. There will be another exodus. There will be a time that we will need to depend upon the Father to exist outside of the system, to exist and survive in the wilderness, even potentially as it is described. And we need to learn how to live off the ground, to be self-sustainable, and to not depend upon that system in the future. We as men need to get strong and stop, as a society, having a bunch of little weak gamma males running around. Let the dead bury the dead, though. And we need to stand up and provide and protect for women and children and be able to have sustainable communities. This is what's most important. He's given us ample opportunity to wake up to these deceptions, to wake up to this truth. He's pulling his people out. He's warning his people, and he's trying to pull them out. We have time, but we don't have forever. And so that's kind of what we're doing, is just trying to let iron sharpen iron, and then seek discernment so that we can actually understand, interpret, and apply the revelations that we get, so we'll understand how to better maneuver the future setting. So hopefully that wasn't too wordy and you followed me. I love you guys. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance, and actually rejoice whenever they revile you for his name's sake, for they did it to all the prophets before you. Peace out.
That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they simple pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up, had to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in the field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock and twirl somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick with a forceful grip. They force them as simple that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature that mean extorted it. They forging it. If news ain't good informants who informing them, there's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this: we porting ships, important gifts. Of course it is, what extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks. We ignoring which informant this, informant this. It looked like we were snoring tricked. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they simple pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real?